Alright, welcome to my mock drum lesson video. My name is Brett Phillip and I will be guiding you through today's lesson. Majority of the students that I'm going to be teaching with 4/4 music are going to be younger students, typically beginners. So a lot of the things I'm going to be going over today in this video are going to be very basic, just very simple things for brand new drummers just so they can get the fundamentals down. Because if they don't get the fundamentals down, in the long run it's just not going to be very beneficial to them. I know a lot of people when they start playing drums, they have this idea like, oh, I'm going to sit down right on the drum set and I'm going to just go for it. There's a lot more that just kind of goes into it, and I just think that's very important to make sure that the basics and fundamentals are followed and practiced. So here's the video, and I hope you enjoy it. So the first thing that you need to do when learning how to play drums is how to hold the drumstick. Who would have thought, right? I know, it's crazy. But the best way to hold the drumstick, I didn't actually learn in my drum lessons. I actually learned this while I was playing baseball, okay? And then I eventually kind of transferred it over to drumming because the concept is the same, all right? So when you're going into up to the bat, all right, you want to grab it like you're shaking somebody's hand, okay? So if you go out, you put your hand out to shake it, your hand kind of looks like that, right? Okay? So then we're going to take that concept, we're going to put the bat, in this case, well, it's a drumstick, but we'll pretend it's a bat, all right? You put it up there, your fingers, all right, same thing with the left hand, all right, so that's how you're holding on to a baseball bat right there, okay? So the reason for this is that way when you're swinging through, all right, it's much easier for your wrists to fling through the strike zone, okay? This gives you more bat speed, it gives you more power, and it gives you more endurance. So what you want to avoid when you're holding a drumstick or a baseball bat is you want to avoid holding it back here in your palms and really grip and tighten. Yeah, I'm going to crush this ball. I'm going to crush this drum, right? Because all that does right there is create a bunch of tension, unnecessary stress that's going to harm you in the long run, okay? So if you look right here, when I try to swing, I have to kind of roll my arm over to get the bat through the strike zone the same way as if I was holding it up here. Much easier. Just flows, all right? Same concept with holding a drumstick, okay? Put my hand out. Here's a drumstick. It's right there. Wrap my fingers around it. Okay? Boom. Easy. All right? So you want to shake hands with the drumstick. All right? So the first grip that we're going to go over is the traditional grip. Okay? Now the traditional grip came about because back in the colonial times, or back when you had marching drummers, you know, oftentimes on the battlefield, the way that the commanders gave out their commands was that they told the drummer what they wanted them to do. The drummer would play a cadence, and then the troops all on the battlefield would hear that cadence, and they would know exactly what to do. Okay? So the drummers, they would have the drum connected to a strap, which kind of went over their shoulder, across their chest, okay? And then the drum was like right here on their side, okay? So in order to play that drum, they developed the traditional grip, okay? So how you do the traditional grip, like I just showed you with the right hand, put your hand out like you're going to shake somebody's hand. Boom. All right? That's your right hand. Okay? Now the left hand, you're going to do the same thing, except you put your hand out to shake the hand. You know how I put the stick in this way? We're going to flip it around. All right? You're still going to grab it about the same spot, but now the stick, you should be able to kind of strike your elbow or your forearm with it. Okay? Now, you're going to take that stick, you're going to turn it forward and rest it in between your middle finger and your ring finger. And then you're going to have your thumb on top to kind of secure things in place, okay? So then when you hold it, boom, you should kind of look like this. You see that? Okay. So then the right hand, you have them like that, shaking hands, nice to meet you. Looks like this. Now this, holding the stick, enabled them to play the drum on the side like that. Because if you were holding it both the same way like this, you'd have to kind of reach up and lean, and it was just really uncomfortable, okay? So that's your traditional grip, all right? Next thing you have is you have match grip. Match grip is the same concept, you know, nice to meet you, except both hands are going to match. They're going to be the same, all right? That's why it's called a match grip. Put your hand out, nice to meet you, boom. Right here, turn your wrist over on top. That's your match grip, okay? So we have traditional grip, match grip, okay? Those are the two main grips.
Now there's one more grip called the French grip. The French grip you'll use mainly when you're on the drum set. Okay, it's very helpful when you're moving around the kit. Okay, so going from the snare drum, boom, to the cymbal, you can see my hand kind of turned up. That's what French grip is. So here's match grip, here's French grip. Match, turn it in, put your thumbs on top, French grip. Okay, boom, match, French, traditional. Okay, you can even kind of mix it up and do a little bit of French in the right hand and then traditional with the left. Whatever feels comfortable for you. Essentially, you just want to make sure that you have the least amount of stress on your joints as possible. That way, you can play longer, play faster with more control. All right. Okay, so now that you know how to hold on to a drumstick and the 3 different grips that there are, there's match grip, traditional grip, and French grip. Okay, now that you know those, what you need to know is how to strike the drum. All right, there's 4 basic strokes that you're going to learn. Okay, the first of those strokes is called the rebound stroke. Now we call it a rebound stroke is because you're letting the stick rebound or bounce off the head and do all the work. Just like that. See how it bounces right back up, rebounds off the drum? You're letting your downstroke make all the effort for the stick to come back up. Okay, that is your rebound stroke. Okay, the next stroke you have is called your controlled stroke. Okay, this is different from the rebound stroke because the controlled stroke, instead of bouncing up off the drum, you're going to keep it down low. You're going to control the stick. Make sure it doesn't go anywhere, right? Okay, that is useful to set you up for the third stroke that we're going to learn, which is called the tap stroke. Okay, so a tap stroke is essentially the same as a controlled stroke or a rebound stroke. It's just quieter. All right. So a lot of people will refer to like a tap stroke as something like a ghost note or an inner beat. Those are the same thing, but it's just a quieter stroke. So rebound, controlled, and then tap. See? I can rebound it and have a tap, or I can control it and have a tap. Okay? Those are the 3 basics. Then the 4th one is the upstroke, which is more complex, a little bit more advanced. You don't really need to know that now. We'll learn it as we progress in our lesson. Now that we know how to grip the drumstick and how to strike the drum, okay, now we're going to learn rudiments. Rudiments are the basic building blocks of drumming, and you can then use those building blocks to create really anything that you need to in drumming. So, for example, we have a rudiment called a flam. Okay? Now the cool thing about rudiments is that the names sound kind of weird, so you'll remember the name, like flam, pataflafla, paradiddle, radimacue. They're very strange names, right? But the thing with the names is that they sound a lot like the rudiment when you play it on a drum. Okay, so for example with flam, when you say flam, right, you got flam, you got fla, fla. So when you're striking the drum, it'll sound like flam. Listen. You hear that? Okay. So to play the flam, you want to start off with one stick down low, about to do a tap stroke. Okay, remember the tap? Just quiet. All right, and then you have your other stick up in the air, ready to do like a rebound stroke or a controlled stroke. Excuse me, controlled stroke. All right, you want to do the controlled stroke to set you up for the next tap stroke, so you can reverse the flam and alternate. So this is what I mean here. So we got our left hand down with the tap, and then we're going to have our right hand for the controlled. Boom. So when you do that, you see the other hand goes up in the air. That's so you can create that flam sound, that blah, blah. Okay? So flam. The next important thing you need to know with rudiments is that you need to alternate your hands when you're playing the rudiments. Okay? So as you just saw me do here with a flam, now I'm alternating. The right hand's down, the left hand's up. Boom. Left hand down, right hand up. Flam. Okay? So that's the flam, that's real basic. The next rudiment that we're going to go over is the single stroke roll. Okay? The single stroke roll is exactly what it sounds like. Single strokes, back and forth. Okay, but if you play it faster with single strokes, it sounds like a roll. So that was all single stroke. I didn't bounce any of that. So the way you get good at that is you start slow. You can start with your rebound strokes, your controlled strokes, or even taps. Okay? Now the next rudiment is called the double stroke roll. Okay? So it's the same concept as the single stroke roll. You're going to be alternating hands, all right, and striking the drum. Okay? But instead of just alternating with a single stroke, you're going to double it. So alright, so if you speed that up, it'll sound like this. Okay, so that is your flam, single stroke roll, double stroke roll. Okay, there's about 40 rudiments in total, and it's very important to master all of them. That way you can translate them to the drum set. Okay? And those are the basic rudiments that I want you to go over today.
Alrighty, so to recap everything that we just learned, okay, we learned grips, we learned strokes, and we learned rudiments, right? So there were 3 grips that we went over, okay? The first grip was our traditional grip, alright? It was like this, remember? So remember, we have right hand, shaking hands, nice to meet you. Left hand, shaking hands, nice to meet you, but the stick is backwards. Turn it forward. Boom, okay, thumb on top. Rested between the middle finger and the index finger, or ring finger. Okay, so this was our traditional grip. Then you flip the stick back over in your left hand, hold it the same way that you're holding it in the right hand. All right, that's our match grip. All right, wrists on top, elbows out. All right, and then the last grip was the French grip. So it's the same thing as match, only you turn your elbows in, thumbs on top. Okay. So those were the basic grips that we had, and then we had our strokes, right? So the first stroke was the rebound stroke, which means that the stick is rebounding off the drum. You're making the stick do all the work, as opposed to the controlled stroke, which is where you are controlling the stick. You are controlling what it does, so staying it down low, right? And then there was the tap stroke that we learned, okay? And that was a quiet little note like that, called either a ghost note or an inner beat sometimes. Okay, those were the 3 that we learned, and then there's one more called the upstroke, which we'll learn later on. All right, and then the third thing that we learned about today was rudiments. What are rudiments? Okay, so rudiments, as I said, are the basic building blocks of drumming. There are 40 of them total, okay, and we only went over 3 of them. It's going to take quite a while just for you to be able to memorize all of them and get them down and play them perfectly, but it's always a good habit to get into to practice your rudiments daily. Okay, the reason kind of why we went over all these things today is because you can't really, you can't do trigonometry or you can't practice calculus or anything like that unless you first know how to add and subtract. You got to start with the basics, start at the bottom and build your way up. Same goes with anything within sports, whether it be baseball, football, as I just mentioned, in schoolwork, you got mathematics, your essay writing, English skills, grammar, anything like that. You always have to start at the basics, make sure you have the fundamentals down, and then you kind of build off it from there. Okay, so that's pretty much all that I had for you today. Thank you for watching, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you in the future.